Good afternoon. My name is Eric Millin, and I am a software developer at Sauce Labs. And the bulk of my job is working on Appium, arguably the leading mobile application test automation framework. And so that's what I'm going to be telling you about today. Now, before I get started, I do want to give you a small disclaimer. Ryan Kirkman was originally scheduled to give this talk. I found out about it last week while I was at Topsail Island, if any of you are familiar with it, and enjoying time with my wife and son. And so it was rather short notice. So if it doesn't go completely smoothly today, not my fault. But if you enjoy it, I take full credit. So, all right. So the introduction to Appium. So Appium is the cross-platform solution for native and hybrid mobile automation. Obviously, one of the big problems that you have in automating applications that are designed to run on multiple platforms are the different APIs, the different libraries that are required to get those tests to work. That adds a lot of additional overhead, and especially if you're new to those libraries and APIs, then that adds a considerable amount that you have to learn, all the bugs, all the problems that come out of that whole process of learning a new API. So Appium is an open source project that grew out of a sense that that was a problem that we wanted to address. It also grew out of a sense that this is a problem that had already been addressed. And if many of you or any of you are familiar with Selenium, Selenium basically offers the same sort of thing for browsers and desktop applications. And in fact, the co-founder of Sauce Labs, Jason Huggins, was the guy who created Selenium. And so Appium works very similarly to Selenium. It's the same architecture. And in fact, it's deliberately designed to use many of the same APIs. It uses the same JSON protocol, JSON WP, which is in the process of becoming a W3C standard. And so the idea is to provide people with a testing product and a testing platform that's already familiar with them or to them. And in many cases, you can take tests that you've written for Selenium and run them with Appium, and they'll work just fine. So the founding philosophy for the Appium project were that you should be able to test the same app that you're submitting to the marketplace. That is, you don't have to recompile your program to include specific testing APIs, have a test version and a release version. You should be able to run the same tests against the same code. These tests that you write should work in any language using any framework. Any, obviously, is a slight hyperbole, but at least most and many of the common ones. I'll be telling you about the clients in a moment. And that it should use a standard automation specification and API. And I just talked a little bit about that with JSON WP. And that is the same JSON API that Selenium uses. And the other goal is, as I've already indicated, although Appium is, the bulk of the people working on Appium are associated with Sauce Labs, our goal is really to create a community and create a product that is independent of Sauce. So our particular team is in a kind of strange place that we're paid by Sauce Labs. We work on Appium, and Appium is its own thing. We do have members from the community who are part of that, and that's something that we try really hard to maintain. And are definitely working towards all the time. Now, before I go any farther, are any of you familiar with Appium? Have any of you used it? So we got a few people. Okay. Any of you familiar with Sauce Labs? Oh, okay. So a number of people. So Appium has really taken off over the last year and a half. We've had over 60 releases, 4,800 commits, 1,700 issues closed, 1,540 pull requests, 1,370 stars, 1,140 forks, and over 120 contributors. So, and we also won a Rookie of the Year award. But hopefully that number of contributors speaks to at least our hope of building, a community that's much larger than Sauce. So much like Selenium, Appium is structured really as a server that can run locally, or you can run it on another machine. But it abstracts away and coordinates the activities of what are actually a whole host of other components and pieces, interfaces used by specific browsers or specific technologies to run their test automation. In particular, Appium provides a way to abstract away Apple Instruments and UI automation, Google UI Automator, Google Instrumentation, and all of that is done. You're given access to all of that via the WebDriver interface. So just to give you a basic idea of very rough idea of the architecture. So the idea is that you're able to write a script using whatever particular WebDriver client that you're working in. And that WebDriver then communicates with the Appium server. And it's, again, can run locally, or you can run it on your own host or on Sauce Labs or any other services cloud. And then that server then communicates with the devices under test. So the client libraries, although Appium itself is written in JavaScript and Node, the client libraries that are available are written in C#, Java, JavaScript, assuming you're using Node, Ruby, Python, and PHP. So most of the common server-side languages, at least the interpreted ones. So the basic idea is to write your tests once, and in the ideal world, right, you'd be able to write your tests once, and they'd be able to run everywhere on everything in exactly the same way. Now, for those of you who have written tests, how often does that happen? Yeah, right, very rarely. So Appium is designed to take some of those problems into account and give you a way to write tests that will run in multiple places or across multiple operating systems. So to give you a sense of how this all comes together, I'm going to run this demo, and this is using the Python client. And so in the upper left, we have the Python code. If you've ever done any Selenium work or done the WebDriver APIs, this will all be very familiar to you. So right now, we're running this test on, it looks like, iOS. Oh, sorry. Now we're on iOS. But you can see the same code, different operating systems are able to automate and simulate these user interactions. Now, obviously, it's not always that easy, but we'll get into a bit of how you handle the complications here in a moment. Let's see. Let's just skip that. And now it is designed to be easy to run and easy to start. This is an example of starting tests and running, starting the server. And you can see that we've got pretty beefy logs. These are, this is all the feedback that's hidden back here. But, and then running these tests on different devices at the same time. So we do, again, go out of our way to try to provide lots of feedback so you can tell. Makes it easy to audit your tests and to evaluate what has gone well and what has not. We also provide a robot API. Why? Because we could. No, we also have somebody on our team who's really into robots. And if you have your own robot, which actually, I guess, anymore is not really that crazy. You might have your drone or whatever at home. And you can automate it to do your shopping or scare off annoying dogs from your yard or what have you. So Appium is under constant development. And it's undergone a lot of changes, particularly recently. We actually released 1.3.0 yesterday. Some of the improvements here are specific to that. Others are just more recent. But we did just add iOS 8 support. We added Xcode 6 support, stability improvements, new client libraries, and those are things that we're always, if anyone, if you really are dying to have a Haskell WebDriver, then that would be great. If somebody wanted to do one in C++, I would be really happy. The new desired caps, and by caps are capabilities. These are the ways in which you define essentially what you want the tests, what you're targeting, the environment for your tests. We've expanded XML and XPath support, Android hybrid apps, mobile web support, Unicode keyboards, new locator strategies. These are ways of finding elements on the page, CSS, ID, other methods of finding those elements in the views that you're testing. We have expanded our Windows support. That's something that we're dedicated to doing, and that's actually my background is mostly as a Windows developer, and so that was one of the reasons why I was brought on the team, was to help improve that. We have Appium.app and Appium.exe, which are GUI interfaces. So if you have, these can be particularly helpful for people who do not have a programming background. So some of your QA people, if they given a sort of point-and-click environment where they can then map and record the tests that they want to perform, and they can do that without having to actually write code. And we have some new amazing docs, and that's something that we're always working toward. So the test model. So I've talked a little bit about caps, those things. So here's an example of the sort of caps that you the capabilities, the desired capabilities that you're looking to execute your tests under. And you can see here this is outlining a test for iOS on a simulator and using platform 7.1. In this case, we have Slendroid, which is older, allows you to automate some of the older APIs and OSs under Android, and along with the platform version and specifying that you want to use an emulator. Now, this is important because because we allow you not only to use the simulators and emulators, you can also use real devices. And there is, unfortunately, in a perfect world, all of Google's emulators would behave exactly as all the Android devices. Unfortunately, that's not the case. So you can at least run your tests across different real devices to ensure that your app is working correctly. So there are some changes with Appium, some small changes to how things work versus a Selenium API. So we use platform name and platform version instead of version and platform, and device name versus device. So these are just some small changes if you're familiar with that. So this is going to give you an idea of what a test would look like using Ruby. And this is testing against an Android emulator. So you can see that we're using a variety of different strategies here to locate elements by class name, accessibility ID, and this is really a term that we've kind of abstracted from its original context. But you can use ID, XPath, iOS automation, Android UI automator code. So you can use all these different methods to find and identify elements that you want to put under test. Now, you also notice that you can use, this does give you a way to access some of the more specific APIs that maybe that Appium hasn't yet exposed directly through our clients. So you do have that option as well. And so you can, once you locate your element, then you can put your element, you can manipulate it, put it under test. So print the text. You can obviously assert equality if there's something something particular that you're looking for. Click the element and continue on automating the process that or the user interaction that you want to simulate. We do provide the current context. The context API provides you with a convenient way of switching between views and a way of allowing you to do that between native in hybrid applications where you have, for example, the native context and then you have a web context. So you can use the context API to switch between those two things, but it's broader than that. It allows you to switch also between various web views, so it's really any kind of view. So that is a feature many people find helpful. So you can see here, yeah, we're switching between web view, and then we have native app, and then we can simulate a scroll, rotate the view, and so that gives you an idea of how the tests work. Now, obviously, yes?
How do you record the test case for Appium? Because Appium solution, I remember there's a plugin in Python that can take you through the web pages or record the steps and generate the test case skeleton for you.
Yes. So I mentioned earlier there is we have Appium.app, which is the OS X version, and Appium.exe, which provides the same kind of functionality, a point and click method to map out a test and then be able to run it. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes, but how do I use the exe file to record a test case for any Android app? Do I need to run the emulator on my laptop, then start up the exe file, then it will monitor my event on the emulator?
Well, so it depends on where the Appium server is deployed. So as I mentioned earlier, you can run the Appium server locally, or you can run it remotely. So if it were if Appium were, let's say it's running remotely on another server, assuming that you have the Android SDK and all those things there, as long as you have the file that's going to tell Appium exe or appium.app what steps to execute, then they'll just connect to that server, and then the emulator and the clicking will all take place there.
Yeah, I understand this point. I guess my question is that when I'm using Selenium, right, before I try to create a test case, a test script, I will use the Selenium plugin in Firefox to go through the steps I want to test. Then when I do that, that plugin can help me to generate a template of the test case. It has those kind of steps like button 1 phase, button 2 phase. Then based on that, I can refine it a little bit to generate my actual test case script.
Right.
Do we have the same thing in Appium?
Oh, yes, yes. So that's what the Appium app and Appium exe are designed to do. Now, I don't have, personally, I don't have very much experience with those applications. I'm actually fairly new to the Appium team and new to sauce. So, but I know that they do provide you that same kind of step-by-step action in the GUI that you can then change. You can view the various elements and then extract that into your test. So, yeah, I feel like I haven't really answered your question, but maybe if you come afterward, I can show you the site, and then you can probably teach me something. So, and see if that answers your question. So one of the challenges with Appium, for the most part, what we've talked about so far is very procedural. If you'll excuse the metaphor, sort of single-threaded testing, right? And obviously, in an environment where you have multiple devices, multiple platforms, and perhaps scores, even hundreds of applications that need to be tested, doing those in a linear, single-threaded way is not really feasible, at least if you want to get testing done this year. So Appium's design is primarily a single-threaded approach, one test at one time. So it by itself, it does not necessarily, it doesn't scale well per server. Now there are a variety of ways to get around that using multiple instances of Appium, but one of the other options, and it's the option that we at Sauce Labs prefer, is that by utilizing a service such as Sauce Labs, you can then take your tests that are broken into pieces, modules, and then execute those tests in parallel and get the results very quickly. So that allows you to obviously get your tests done more quickly and ideally more accurately. You'll see the Sauce Labs, Sauce, for those of you not familiar, the cloud service provides access essentially to virtual machines that offer a specific testing environment for each browser or mobile operating system that you might want to run your tests under. So by offering access to those virtual environments, you can execute all your tests in parallel and do it very quickly. And you can then, using SOS as service, get the results for audit and review. So they do store information about your test run in the broad thing, and then you can also see specific information about each run, and there are, you can get screenshots of the tests, and you can actually watch the tests as they take place, which is kind of cool. One of the things that makes SOS's service unique is that the simulator and emulators and emulator VMs are destroyed after each session. Not all services offer that. They'll reuse machines. Coming from my background in enterprise desktop development, that's kind of a scary idea for me. So this idea that it's a new machine, and even I think just as an engineer who wants to ensure that the exact environment, exactly what are the factors that are influencing and impacting my application, and you want to remove as much static as possible. That I think is a very reassuring fact as far as the quality of your tests are concerned. And then we also offer the SOS Connect service, which allows you to run your tests using an encrypted private tunnel. Essentially what this means is you can run tests that are located behind an enterprise firewall and still use the SOS service. So what's next for Appium? iOS 8.0.1 support is coming up soon. We're working very hard on a more predictable release cycle. And as part of that, I've got duplicates. The improving the testing and the testing that we do on Appium before it gets out into the wild. We're also looking at Android Lollipop and W support coming up. More Android automation features. This is what I was talking about earlier with the tests. So we're working on doing more beta releases and giving ourselves time for feedback. This is part of our own process of continual improvement, and trying to ensure the quality of our product. And one of the big things is Android Real Devices on SOS is coming soon. So you can, rather than just offering the ability to test virtual devices in the cloud, you can also test real devices. And one thing we'd like to do, we haven't done yet, is offer Windows Phone support. But that's something that we definitely want to get done, but we have not done yet. So, questions? Yes, sir, in the blue. Yes, you can. So that's actually how we're setting up our own tests on the Appium team. Is we have a Jenkins master that's been provided kindly by CloudBees, and those tests then are sent off to various worker machines that execute the tests. So that's definitely something you can do. There are all sorts of tutorials out there on how to integrate Appium and the soft services into various types of continuous integration environments. Yes?
Do you know much of how Protractor works with Appium, the test framework for AngularJS?
I have no idea, so honestly. I would be happy to find out more about that if you come up and see me. As I said earlier, I'm relatively new to the Appium team, so I feel like you're probably best served by me being honest in that I don't know. But I'll write it down, and I'd be happy to get you the answer. So, yes?
So right now, I had to make a decision about back in February to go between Appium and Calabash. There were two options.
Mm-hmm.
We went with Calabash mainly for the Android API 15 and lower support.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like you guys have used Cylindroid for that now.
Yes.
Is that recent, sir, or has that just been?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure what the timing was for the inclusion of that, but that is something that we do now, and there has been some talk of if any of you are familiar with Espresso, so that offers limited support for black box testing. So we meet the requirement of not forcing you to recompile, but we may be using that for some of the that offers support for some of the older APIs as well.
Kind of further, Calabash has got the Xamarin test
Mm-hmm.
support, which looks like it's driving towards with the little Android devices and the Sauce Lab. Is there an opportunity for real iOS devices in that as well?
Yeah, I know that's something that we want to do, and I'm not sure. I don't know the specifics of the discussion. If there's some issue with licensing and Apple, they're a little more finicky about that kind of thing.
Service like I think there's AppFlack out there that
Yeah.
does at least with Calabash run blood tests. You know if that does support Appium?
Actually, yes, I know for a fact that they do.
Okay.
So many of those services do support Appium, of the other testing services. So Appium is not a Sauce Labs only API. This is something you can deploy on your own and also use with other services as well. Any other questions? Sure.
Yeah. So one of the problems that I had with Millin stuff doing mobile, when you pulled up text input on a mobile Android, it liked to do a set text for fields instead of bring up the keyboard and type. Do you know if Appium and Android text input brings up the keyboard and types it like a user would, or sets the text in that field?
We have APIs to do both of those things. So there's which are basically exactly what set text and press key, I believe, or send key. Yeah. Yes, sir.
You touched on this, I think, in a moment there, but we don't even succeed in using the Android emulator,
Mm-hmm.
the iOS emulator, and the Android devices lying around our desk.
Mm.
Is that consistent with what you find there, or are you able to get the Android in? I mean, we're baffled at how to even get the thing to launch in any reasonable amount of time. Is there tricks to that, or do you guys actually use the Android emulators in your?
So yeah, we do. The way that we get them, I mean, I use them in my own testing. Essentially, I just launch it once and then leave it running. And Appium will locate it and it'll locate open instances. Because yeah, they take forever to start up.
Yeah.
So yeah, we just open them, leave them on. Appium will actually unlock it for you.
Okay.
So if it locks and
So that's
do it that
the
way.
soft option.
Yeah.
Cool. Keep it running, just like certain cars.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, or a server, or just just keep it there because it's really they take forever.
Oh, okay.
That speeds up a lot, and then there's a third-party emulation software you can pay for that's a lot better, but I don't know if that's.
And
I don't pay anything.
I feel like is there also you can use. I haven't used images, but I think there's a way to use images to accelerate the starting part, like Snapchat. Yeah. Well. Okay.
All right, thanks.
You're welcome. Anyone else? All right, well, thank you so much. You're my first audience for my first presentation. So have a great day.